which is fine. Now
There
we're live,
it is.
guys. Now we're live. Hello,
Now we're live.
everybody. This
Thank
is Pure
you.
Presence. Herein lies the peace of God. With me, Amy Torres, and my co-host, Bill Free. We are thrilled to be here with you today, especially because we have a special guest, Carol Howe, who is a veteran Course in Miracles teacher. She has written an amazing book called Never Forget to Laugh. If you do not know about it, you must give it a read because it fills in the other side of the scribing process. Lots of us know about Helen Schuckman, but we don't know about Bill. And in her own right, Carol is amazing to talk to. She has a class that you will have to check out, and she'll tell you about it later. Her main focus today will be healing through relationships, which is another way of talking about the forgiveness practice in A Course in Miracles. And you're invited to interact. So listen, you guys, we're figuring it out for the first time, how it's working on Facebook Live, how to use the chat. We very much want to see what you're saying, but bear with us in case we have a few little tech challenges along the way. So, hi, Bill. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Amy. Hi, Amy. Yeah, thank you for that beautiful introduction, Amy. And Carol Howe she represents the like our elder teachers in A Course in Miracles. She's notably a master teacher. She really knows this material better than anyone or as well as anyone. And she has amazing online programs also. One that I really love called How Life Works. And we have a brief commercial that will come about halftime and tell you how to find each of our various websites. And you guys, please take a look at Carol Howe's website when you have a chance. She's like an awesome, cutting edge technology teacher and presenter, and you really want to pay attention to that because she's been doing this longer than any of us, so she must know something. And welcome to the show, Carol Howe.
Thank you. It's like when you're a veteran, it implies you've kind of been through the wars, and sometimes that's what it feels like when you've been A Course in Miracles. I remember someone said once early on, I decided I wanted to be the very best I could be, and then the pain began. This isn't my picture of how this ought to be, but it really is, because if we want to have the best life we can have, then we have to let the interference begin to subside. You remember that the introduction to the text talks about removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. And what I want you to hear now is that your peace, your joy, your happiness, all of the things that make a fabulous life experience are already in place. They are already right here, but something is keeping us unaware. And that's what the whole course is about, is to help us remove the fog. Now, this veil of Maya, as it's called, has been talked about for thousands of years. So A Course in Miracles is really a modern restatement of ancient wisdom. And I also want to make clear that our time today is absolutely not only for course students, because the principles in it are universal principles. They are not the private property of A Course in Miracles. In other words, this is just an amazing, amazing, clear, comprehensive restatement. The other thing that I like to say about this, for those of us who live in our technologically sophisticated world, is that this is really a reprogramming device. That's why I like to think of it as a spiritual technology, because it tells us in the beginning, we almost virtually everything we believe is 180 degrees off. So it says you've dug yourself into a big hole because you haven't understood some things about yourself and how you relate. So it's like the Course jumps in this big hole with us, takes us by the hand and says, I'm going to steadily lead you out of here if you will pay attention. I would have given anything 50 years ago if somebody had said, okay, here is how life works, all packaged and handed to you, sure would have saved me a lot of time and trouble and years and years and years and years of trying to find this out. So my mission, the thing that I love more than anything is to say, we can save you a tremendous amount of time if we can now simplify our situation, what to do about it. So this is for everybody, not just for students. And I want to jump in with an analogy that I hope will make sense to you.
And hold that thought, Carol, just hold that thought a moment, because you've given such a beautiful introduction. I want to appreciate that you're including ancient wisdom, because our show is called Pure Presence. And that is the non-dual piece, the Advaita Vedanta piece. And then we also integrated A Course in Miracles by adding, herein lies the peace of God. So as you're inviting everybody to enjoy this, and not just course students, I'd like to say hello to some of the people who are here, because I figured it out, you guys, and I can see you. So at least I can see some of you. And I want to say hi to Cock, if I'm saying that correctly, and Mary, Carol, Jason, Shani, Joan, Laura, Wendy, Renee, Marlaya, Yvonne, Lynn, Pew. There's so many of you here. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name, but it's such a warm feeling to have us be together as a Sangha, as a community. And I want us to acknowledge that we're here as a group. And we are what I call the beautiful few, meaning that all are chosen, but few choose to listen. And you are here listening today. I also see one hand up, and I'm going to keep my eye on that. So a bit deeper into the presentation, I will come back to you, and we welcome your questions. And Carol, you were talking about how this would have accelerated.
One more thing, Amy. The ones that are viewing, there's about 46 viewing right now, and you guys all have the functionality of clicking on the Facebook icon on your screen, and you can share this on your wall if you want to on Facebook. So that would be awesome if you want to do that for us.
Marvelous.
Okay. And would that invite more people to join on the Facebook Live if they want to?
I think it would just invite them to watch.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Bill is the tech wizard, so he knows better than me.
That's right.
The other thing I want to mention, Carol, is that you said that you wish you would have had this 50 years ago. It would have saved so much time. Yeah. And of course, the miracle says that it saves us time. So we really want to hear what you have to say about how healing through relationships is like the world is a mirror of your state of mind, and you can use that mirror for awakening, for forgiveness. And you're a living demonstration of that. I just want to let people know that in speaking to you over the past few days and weeks, you already, I feel, shifted inside from some of the interactions we've had, and from you sharing with me that you have barely had to go to the doctor for your entire life since you picked up the course, that you made an internal decision around that. And I know that people will be very interested in that as well. So maybe you can pop that in at some point.
Yeah, I would be happy to do that. It's like, of course, I want to say something about our viewers and the people who will ultimately become viewers, and that is A Course or other teachings of non-duality find us. We act like, I found A Course in Miracles. No, A Course in Miracles finds you. It finds you because you have asked the big question. It's not for everybody because people are in different stages of their own unfolding, but this is something of a graduate course. So I'm going to give you a tiny little short example that can help be able to see what our situation is, because I think analogies and stories are very helpful. Briefly, years ago, my brother, who was a very revered, beloved college professor, died of Parkinson's disease. And shortly before, the medicine that one has to take for Parkinson's disease often causes hallucinations. Now, his hallucinations were very frightening to him. And he and his caretakers would call me, and I would run back and forth between where I live in Florida and where he lived for the end of his life process. And he would plead with me to make the people stop coming into his room at night, to keep making trucks drive through his room, to keep making people climb in the windows and so on. Like, his plea was, fix this problem for me. Well, you can't fix a problem that doesn't exist. And it doesn't do any good to tell somebody who's hallucinating, you're hallucinating, because you're not given a 2-minute warning that says, okay, now from here on, what you're seeing and hearing and believing and tasting and feeling is not really here, but it is an illusion. It's an imagination based on what's going on in your mind. And yet we can take that, back it up a notch and say, that's our situation. So when we pray to God or pray to whoever you pray to, like, make this lack go away, make this problem person go away, make something else go away, nothing outside us can take it away because we are imagining the whole thing. Now, does anybody get that when you first hear it? Of course not. Because just as hallucinations seem very real to those who are hallucinating, and it does no good to say, this is what's really going on, but it does say, let me comfort you. Let me take you by the hand. Let me reassure you you are safe. And that's what this does, is to take us by the hand and say, okay, we're going to lead you out of the situation where you find yourself. And you might say, well, what is the raw material? What is the seed that started a hallucination in the first place? If you decide to buy into, well, at least let's explore that and see if that's true. And we're promised that at some moment, our current moment, as well as an ancient moment, we somehow got it in our minds that we had ruined ourselves, that we have separated ourselves from what it is we really are. And the terror and the guilt was so extreme that that has become the seed. It's become the ground of the hallucination we're now in, which seems so punishing to, at some point, almost everyone. And so the Course knows that it's got to undo the source of our hallucination. It doesn't do any good to say, this is not really a problem, wake up, because we can't do that. It does say early on in the text, when it's quoting a little bit from the Bible, where it says, and the Bible says, Adam fell into a deep sleep, and nowhere does it say he ever woke up. And then it points to that as, well, here's proof of our dilemma. This has been known about for a long time. So if our own unrecognized terror and guilt becomes the ground of our daily lives that we're living right now, then we need to know, what do I do about that? How do I proceed? So here's what the Course will tell us. It says, first of all, you need to be very clear that the world of time and space, everything that we apprehend with our senses, is an absolute mirror of your state of mind. We've heard in many traditions for thousands of years and up until very recently that thoughts and things are the same thing, that our thoughts translate to the most intimate detail. Our, what we call outside world, that even quantum physicists say, well, it isn't outside. This is in your mind. So it's like the in your mind story has been going on for thousands of years. We need to pay attention to that, because let's set this up the way we believe it now. We think the world is real, it's exterior, it's very big, I'm a small little person in it, and I guess what I have to do is to learn my defensive skills, my manipulative skills, my negotiating skills, to somehow figure out how I can stay first alive, how I can survive, and then hopefully thrive. Well, now, when you look at this on face value, this is a daunting task to think, I'm one little person, a giant world that mostly doesn't really care about me. How am I going to make it? Well, if this is our premise, which it is for all of us, you can see why things are such a mess. So the Course says, but your premise is wrong. It's not evil or criminal. It is totally incorrect. absolutely incorrect. So all of the ways we've tried to live our lives based on a false hypothesis has failed us, not because we aren't beautiful, good, deserving, supported, loved, and watched after, but when we make our decisions and our thought processes based on a false assumption, it's like trying to program a computer. If you have your logic wrong, your coding can be correct, but you're going to have a big mess as the outcome. So we need to look at this mirror thing. What the Course and other teachings of non-duality will say is, okay, actually, here's how it is. The world that we think is our big real world out here is like, I like to think of this as like an MRI of your mind. People have MRIs so you can see what's going on inside your body. Well, so much of our exterior life comes from our unconscious mind that it kind of gets dropped out here as the world so you can see what it looks like. People look at their, what is this on this desk? People look at their MRI image and they say, oh, okay, that's what's going on inside this body. Well, we get to look at our world and say, this is what's going on in my mind. The world becomes a great big diagnostic procedure.
Yeah.
And it's a mirror. The mirror is the most faithful, it's the most accurate, it's the most helpful metaphor, I think, that exists on the planet. Because nobody expects to look in a mirror. Well, first of all, you don't sneak up on a mirror like you're unclear about what's going to be there. When you look, you're really clear. It's going to be you. It's going to be you with whatever you've got on now. It's not going to have yesterday's clothes or tomorrow's clothes. Mirrors don't store images. And so there's no doubt in your mind. And so what we want to cultivate is there's also no doubt in our minds about the fact that our world is reflecting exactly. And it doesn't do any good to say, but yes, but it's like, look at this awfulness in my life and I'm not an awful person. Indeed, you're not an awful person. But we have so much garbage in our unconscious minds that we have no idea about. I remember in my early days of the Course reading about all this guilt and terror, and I thought, well, I don't know what's with whoever wrote this book. I mean, I absolutely recognize this is the truth, but I thought, I don't feel all this guilt and terror, maybe a little bit, until I had a big moment of terror, just like it says, we're terrified. And that's why it, more than any other teaching of non-duality, it's going to say we're going to focus on relationships, because relationships are going to reveal to us in the most efficient and deep and accurate manner what's going on down here in this unconscious mind that is so instrumental in creating my outer circumstances. Does that seem clear?
Well, I definitely have a question.
Okay.
I'd like to use myself as an example.
Okay.
Sorry for the echo. I hear a little echo, but we'll do our best.
Yeah.
I like to use the example of when I was living in New York City. That's where I was born and raised. And when I was on the subway, especially in my 20s and early 30s, I would feel totally invisible, that I was considerate of everybody else walking in and out of the car, and everybody else was like a stampede, a herd of animals just plowing over each other, including me, just to get their spot in the subway car. And it seemed very clear to me at that time that I was considerate and my actions reflected that, and they were inconsiderate. So I'm very interested, Carol, in the subtleties of this. I want to look at all levels that, it's possible that I see somebody else inconsiderate, and then I have to face that I am inconsiderate. And sometimes that's true. I've just been blind to my own actions, or maybe inside I am considerate, but my impact on people still feels inconsiderate. But then there's also a subtlety, which is I'm seeing inconsiderate people because I've been inconsiderate towards myself. So I'd like to examine our relationships with others, and then as we reel it back in, how we do the same thing to ourselves.
Well, congratulations, go to the head of the class, because that's it's like, indeed, since it says the relationships are going to reveal to us things that we absolutely are unaware of, because the things that trouble us the most are the ones that most effectively and in the deepest possible place of denial get shoved into the unconscious mind. So we could use your example of inconsideration. And let's pretend like you have no idea you're an inconsiderate person. Let's just say that you grew up in a household where being inconsiderate was absolutely got you punished, got you, sent to your room. Being inconsiderate is horrible. And so you associate with, oh dear, being inconsiderate is a punishable offense, and so on and so forth. Okay, so what's going to happen is every one of us in our trying to be safe, we're very self-centered when we're trying to be safe. In other words, it's kind of like if you're a zebra running from the lion and you happen to trample over some small little animals, you're not really doing that on purpose. It's just that survival is job one. So it's like we're doing from our earliest days what we think we have to do to survive. So in that alone, we need to be more compassionate with ourselves and everyone else. But let's say you think, I'm the good one here. I am being so sweet and so kind about how I handle myself, and all of these other people are the inconsiderate ones. What I have found, both for myself personally and for dealing with about a zillion people, is once you find an adjective or a phrase that describes behavior that you find annoying, that's a key phrase, that you find hurtful, that you find annoying, that you find upsetting, tells you with 100% certainty that you still are carrying guilt, perhaps completely unknown to you, very likely unknown to you, about, because what could be more inconsiderate than pretending like you've ruined yourself and that you don't belong to love anymore, and that somehow or another you've established your own universe and usurped the place of God? That's a pretty inconsiderate thing to believe.
So Carol, if you were my earth angel, if we, went back in time and I'm standing on the subway, holding the door for everybody and getting trampled in the process, what would you whisper in my ear? How would you reverse that scenario for me?
What I would do is to say, Amy, bless your heart, you are accusing yourself like an inquisitor. I mean, in other words, you are deeply accusing yourself. You're hurting yourself. You're blaming yourself. You're considering yourself a terrible person, and that your inconsideration at some point, possibly not at all now, but at some point, is a punishable offense. And the annoyance or the hurt or the distress that you feel when the stampede comes is not being caused by them. What they are doing is hitting that wound. They're reminding you, that kind of frequency is reminding you at an unconscious level, very likely at an unconscious level, I feel so guilty about my inconsideration, about my just stampeding forward in life. And it's like, the heck with whoever I might happen to run over.
Or my desire to do so, because as you say this, and I like using myself as a guinea pig, because then I'm not pointing the finger at anybody else. I'm realizing that part of it was that I wanted to practice the golden rule and do unto others as I would have them do unto me. So I hold the door open for you, and then you'll hold the door open for me. But that was not happening. And you're right. I really think that you are uncovering a deep family pattern, which was that it is a crime to be inconsiderate.
Yes.
And what's fascinating is that as I embrace the possibility that we could all be somewhat inconsiderate and nobody would, really get hurt by that.
Exactly.
It was an amazing equalizer to embrace the thing I thought was bad and wrong.
Well, and not to mention the judgment. I mean, because really all they're reflecting back to you is your conditioned judgment about people being inconsiderate. That's a total separation, and you're getting the projection of what your belief is being projected out there. And the responsibility of a miracle worker is to really put that whatever that belief is that you think is happening out there, is to put it on the altar so that you clean it up for everyone and then you release yourself.
And Bill, what you just said is so potent, because when I finally moved through that issue, I had a big thunderbolt, a miracle, which said to me, all these people who are appearing inconsiderate to you are in a great deal of pain. It's
Yes.
nothing personal. They're trampling their way through the subway because they're in a rush, because they're scared of losing their jobs, because they don't want to be late to work, because they got to get home to their families. I thought I was in the most pain of all, narcissistically, just really focused on my pain that I was in at that time. And it blasted through, and I realized, oh my God, all these people are in even more pain than me. That's a lot of pain. It shifted everything.
That is a brilliant and accurate thing to say. That is an accurate thing to say, because what we don't realize is, and our modern day neuroscience comes to the rescue, which is we were all programmed when we were so little. It's before our nonverbal skills kicked in. So much of our programming was hardwired in before there was any self-reflection, before we even knew what was going on, back when we're months old, days old. Some of it is even prenatal. Some of it is even, according to the new science of epigenetics, inherited in our DNA at conception. Some of our wounding begins at conception. And never underestimate the power of, what must I do to stay safe when I am an infant, a toddler? I'm a young animal, and everything is geared to survival, physical survival, and in the case of human beings, the little not yet developed sense of self survival. Because our physical birth is at birth, but our psychological birth, when we begin to see ourselves as a separate person, doesn't begin until 3 years old. Well, by that time, all of these prohibitions, all of what gets you in trouble, all of what feels pleasurable, all of what feels painful, is already ancient history, you might say, in our unconsciousness. So you are so right that we are all driven by things that we have no idea about. That's the problem. That's why the course is an unlearning device. That's why the beginning of the workbook says, it doesn't matter if you like this. It doesn't matter if you believe it. You can absolutely hate this. It won't make any difference if you do the lessons. You know why? Because the brain is very plastic. That's what neuroplasticity is about. So when it has you repeat these lessons for 15 seconds or repeat these lessons, the course is providing you reprogramming material. In other words, if before you've thought, I'm a terrible person because I'm guilty of being inconsiderate, follow on with your example, what the course will say is, we've all made tremendous mistakes. The fact is, you are beloved, you're still at home, you haven't ruined yourself. All kinds of support is here for you in this present, new, clean moment. Start to accept how you are adored, how you are protected, how you are still one with all that is. So you see, those ideas contemplated are to replace the ideas that got programmed in when you were 2, that says you're not a nice girl at all. You're a terrible little girl because you hit your little brother in the face, and you're awful, and you should be punished from now on. So this is deeply embedded criminal activity as far as the little kids are concerned, and we beat ourselves up terribly. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, it does. And also, to stay with my example, I was attacking and judging everybody in the subway. I was judging them as being inconsiderate.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
that's because I was trying to be perfectionistic and
Yes.
really adhere to this unspoken family rule that I must be considerate, because someone in my family committed suicide, and in our family, hurt feelings could lead to suicide. So you had to be very sensitive and considerate so that nobody killed themselves. So yes, I have compassion for myself, but I just want to say that when I tried to live at that perfectionistic level for a good reason, really, I was playing God. I wasn't having faith. And then I had the face of innocence. I'm the good guy. I'm the one who works so hard to be considerate. You should all do like I'm doing.
Exactly. Well, not only that, and you think, the Course keeps telling us you're not a victim. You actually are participating in things, and we go, I am too a victim. I'm going to show you all these awful people and what they've done wrong, and don't take my victimhood away with me. Don't make me responsible for my life. I want to be at the effect of things. And you think, why are we so in love with being a victim? You can clearly see we are.
Well, but what you said earlier about your brother, if I am in the state of hallucinating and the Holy Spirit knows I'm hallucinating but doesn't buy into my hallucination, there has to be a compassionate, gentle transition where I met in my hallucination before I could embrace that I had chosen victimhood.
Absolutely. And you see, the reason why we're so in love with victimhood, and it's like pointing out the errors of others, is notice how we use the words innocent victim all run together like that's one word. So they think, I'm so terrified. Now, most people may not know this at a conscious level, but at an unconscious level, we're so terrified that we have destroyed our innocence. And the destruction of innocence is horrifying to us. So we're going to do everything possible to put ourselves in if I'm a victim, I must be innocent. I'm trying desperately in a way that will not work to get a sense of my innocence back. That's not the way I do it, but you could see the deep terror at the idea, I've really ruined my innocence. So it's like, well, then I'm going to claw my way into any situation to try to fool myself. I don't know I'm fooling myself, but it's what it is. It's like a fake kind of innocence that always backfires. And I'll tell you why in a minute.
We're going to take a break, and then we have a few questions when we come back, but give us about 40 seconds for a station break, and you guys hang on. We'll be right back. And thank you for joining us. We have some really good questions on the chat in the chat room. Amy, if you want to pick up a couple of those questions, take a look at what Shasta and Fancy have to say, and maybe a few others. But here's a station break. We'll be right back, you guys. This program is brought to you by the Teachers of God Foundation, Amy Torres, ACIM.com, CarolHowe.com, and on Fridays you can re-listen to this program at 9 Pacific, 12 Eastern at unity.fm. Please visit these websites and see how these teachers can benefit your awakening and peace of mind experience. And now back with Bill Free, Amy Torres, their special guest Carol Howe on Pure Presence. Herein lies the peace of God. Okay, we're back.
I need your help, Bill, because I see two hands are raised. And the first hand that I saw was somebody whose name is K-A-K, Kak,
Yep.
and Marlaya. And I'm not sure how to, I can invite as a speaker and maybe we can hear his voice. So Ka, I'm inviting you to ask your question. I don't see the chat at all to read it out loud for you.
Okay.
And I'll come back to you if it doesn't work. So
I see that Kak is gone and Marlaya is still there. You want to check with Marlaya?
okay, yeah, thank you. Let me try Marlaya, and then we'll go to, did you say John?
No, Kak is gone.
Yes, yeah.
But there are other questions on the chat. There was
Marlaya,
a really...
I think I just turned your mic on. Can you see that?
Marleya, can you hear?
Hmm.
Okay, I'm not sure how that worked, but it didn't seem to work very well.
No, it worked not well.
Shasta has a question for you, Carol. She
Okay.
says, many
Oh.
experts say that our subconscious controls many of our beliefs and behaviors. How do we access the subconscious beliefs in order to heal or transcend them?
Well, you would think she was a plant in the audience because that takes us right to how relationships are going to save us. Outstanding, excellent question. So if you can see my hands move, let's pretend like up here is your conscious mind that has a little bit of stuff in it. Down below is your unconscious mind that's got a vast amount of stuff in it, including the programs that so drive our lives. So it's like, what to do if I'm conscious here and all of the troublesome stuff, at least much of it, is unconscious. I'm stuck, except here come relationships. So here's my conscious mind, here's my unconscious mind, here's a somebody. Here's a somebody over here that I think they're selfish, they're insensitive, they're self-centered, they're uncooperative. We could choose from a great big long list of adjectives. The details don't matter. Now, notice you, whoever you are, perhaps you asking the question, can see that person's behavior, right? In other words, you watch what they do, you listen to their words, and you proclaim them as insensitive, self-centered, okay? So that's a conscious link. You can see them. Well, what you aren't aware of is that an amazing mechanism is that this person is tuning in directly to what's going on in your unconscious mind. Now, how they do that is kind of an energetic frequency thing, but it's literally a kind of it's like a three-way system where my person is aware, unbeknownst to them, of what's going on with you, but it's how they get to be in your life in the first place. So you can infer from watching this person and labeling them as inconsiderate and selfish and insensitive that you are carrying your own load of guilt about some behaviors, some words, somewhere, sometime that you would label in exactly the same way. I find that it is bulletproof. That if you can find the words that describe, and it can only be two or three, that describe this offending person's behavior, you will have nailed exactly. They are being a mirror to what you cannot get to directly. So then you can look and go, oh my, but I'm not like that at all. Like Amy was saying earlier, but I'm the good one. They're the bad ones. Well, it doesn't do any good to try to fight City Hall. If you've got a person that you find offensive and that seems to be causing you great angst of one kind or another, let me tell you what's happening. They are revealing to you. It's as if they have reached into your unconsciousness and are hanging in front of your face where you cannot escape it, what you're accusing yourself of. Notice, I did not say what you're actually guilty of, because nobody's guilty, but it is what you accuse yourself of. And that accusation can have been implanted when you were so little you didn't even know it was there, or it could be implanted because of something you know perfectly well you did yesterday. But in any event, a person will always faithfully reveal to us what we feel guilty about. Well, now I'm at least part way to resolution. Because if I can buy into this, and I strongly suggest you do, I have been doing this not only for myself, but with literally thousands of people, and not once has it failed to be anything but 100% accurate. Well, if something's 100% accurate, it's like there's hardly any point in debating it. So this does not mean you're being accused of being, by me or by anybody else, of being the insensitive, selfish one. It says, you are accusing you. And here's the body chemistry part of what happens when we say, I'm in such pain because they're so awful. What they're doing is triggering this wounded place in you, because guilt is a great wound that we carry with us. And that wound being activated, this interaction with this person activating this wound, tells your brain there's a threat. It's almost like I'm having to deal with this quality, so to speak, or this behavior. But to you, this kind of being exposed or having to deal with this presents a threat to the brain. Now, the brain turns on the stress response because it doesn't know the difference between a saber-toothed tiger is about to jump in the window and get you, or you're about to be found out to be a terrible person and nobody's going to want to have anything to do with you anymore. A threat is a threat as far as the brain is concerned. It creates body chemistry that we think of as the stress response, because after all, it's now preparing you to save your life. And those chemicals that are created by the stress response, when they're taken up into the receptor sites of all the cells in the body, all 60 trillion cells in the body, that's what creates your emotional state. That's what creates your anger. That's what creates your fear. That's what creates the disturbance. So one should be able to see once and for all, no one else causes our upset. Lesson number 5 in the Course says, I am never upset for the reason I think.
Yeah.
You see, I am upset by my body chemistry, by the guilt within me being stirred up, and I'm feeling threatened internally. But you see, I'm not really being threatened by that person. The threat is an internal threat by my own self-judgment and self-accusation, much of which I might never have gotten to if this person didn't show up in my life. So when a problem person comes to your life, the time will come when you're not so surprised or caught off guard by that. You can begin to see, A Course in Miracles or any valid teaching of non-duality is going to be about releasing the blocks to the awareness of this presence of love, which is always right here. Here's a block. Guilt is the block. Fear is the block. If I haven't known what it is, along comes my partner in salvation.
So let me ask you something, Carol, because Susan has a question in the chat.
Okay.
She says, when we are hurt as a child by an adult, our innocence is lost. How do we get rid of that? And it's an important question, you know, for people who are sexually abused at a young age, who are taken advantage of by an authority figure, by an adult who's in a position of trust. You know, it's easier said than done to say, oh, I'm not an innocent victim in situations like that. Can you speak to that?
I can say 2 things about this. The Course is very clear that says, don't be fooled. You came into the situation you were looking for when you came into this world. The lessons are unrelenting in saying from the moment we arrive, it's like we brought our environment along with us. And if we brought along our continued self-attack, which we all do, in other words, you don't come into this world unless we're still attacking ourselves through feeling guilty, through still believing, you know, we've ruined ourselves in some way. So it's like I come with my environment intact. And then from the world's perspective, we say, all these people did things to us, and all of us, there's not a one of us, it's just a matter of degree, who did not deal with inappropriate parenting. Nobody has excellent or perfect parents by any means. But here's the key, and this is a very important key. Every single moment is a new moment. Every single moment, I am starting all over again. Now, there's nothing that keeps us from letting go of this, recognizing, yes, that was an unfortunate circumstance. We're not going to pretend like it didn't happen, although there is a lesson that says the childhood you remember never occurred. And you go, what? The childhood I remember never occurred. So then if you do a little bit more neuroscience about memory, it says you never remember things accurately. The things you remember are not like reaching to the shelf, opening a book, remembering what happened at your 8th birthday party, closing it up and putting it back. Every time you decide to think about your 8th birthday party or the unfortunate things that happened when you were little, you are recreating that memory. You can watch in a microscope the little neurons being reconstructed, like literally reaching out to one another, forming a new connection. So, given that choice is all about changing your mind about anything, and as you pointed out earlier, very accurately, anybody who hurts someone else is driven by their own extreme pain. They're literally our own insanity. And we can reframe everything that's going on whenever we decide it's to our advantage to do so. So even those, I've had people before say, you know what, even when I was little, they'll say, I was sexually abused by the priest at the church. I mean, I'm not making this up. I've heard all sorts of stuff. And she said, I realize how I participated in that. And it's like, she was wise enough to know, well, somehow, if I'm in this situation, I am a contributor to this situation, not consciously, not deliberately, but that's the way it is. But here is the key, and here's the really exciting thing. Today, I can decide to see all parties in any given interaction, whether it's myself, the parents, outside forces, teachers, political parties, it doesn't matter, whatever it is. I can see everybody who is not behaving in a loving way is terrified. They're doing what they're doing based on their own terrified programming. So that if I could step back and say, what I would want to do with help, because my ego mind is not going to be a help with this, but in my right mind, I want to see, it kind of makes me cry to think about this. The world is filled with people desperately looking to be seen for what we really are, desperately looking to be given help. So if we could see that it's to our advantage to offer a sense of you're fine, you're helped, you deserve to be loved, I offer you the peace of God right now, because I can see it's to my advantage to do that. And you will change everything about your life. You will not be at the mercy of anything that happened a long time ago if you choose to do that.
Carol, I have a background as a psychotherapist, and I want everyone listening to know that you offer one-to-one counseling, because this is the kind of thing that needs to be met on an individual level. The course talks about your individual curriculum, and we won't be able to get into all of it today, but I'll just briefly say, for me, when I was met with love in wherever I felt victimized, what first needed to come out was the anger and the sense of betrayal. And so I needed to do a lot of blaming and attacking in a safe place, like a therapy room. And then at a certain point, there came a tipping point where that became more like holding the other person accountable, because I didn't really have an appetite for wanting to punish them or have a grudge forever. So then if I just held them accountable, the guilt started to lift from me. And I started to feel that I wasn't responsible in a self-destructive way for having brought harm to myself, which really, it grieved me terribly to think that I deliberately brought harm to myself. And when I started to free that up and hold the other person accountable, I was empowered to see, wow, if I'm accountable too for coming in as a soul group, who maybe made a story contract before being born into these bodies that we were going to play out this drama or something like that, it began to be more available to me to then move to the higher level that you're talking about, where I could start to embrace the idea that I had participated in every situation.
And you see, what makes owning this easier is if we can step back and realize that what I'm owning is something that at the level of reality didn't happen. Now, that's not helpful as long as we're anchored in the world of time and space, but if you can kind of hold the idea that nothing has been hurt, nothing has been ruined, we have never stopped being the expression of love. We have not stopped being love itself. So that if we can do this in a framework, there's also something that is so important to mention here, and that is we don't operate like we really believe this very important universal law, which is we experience what we offer to others. We think I experience and have what I get. And it says, nope, that's just entirely backwards. You only can experience what you offer, and you will experience exactly to the degree what you do offer. So that if you begin to cultivate the idea that everybody who is doing something, as far as you're concerned, that's fear-driven or unloving, and that's a call for love, and it's not just their call for love, it's your call for love. Remember, our world is a mirror, including the behavior of all the people in it. So it's like,
Yes.
the way I want to learn to respond. And as I say, your ego will not be helpful about this because it's the problem. But there is the higher part, there's the holiness, there's the right mind to which we appeal. And we say, listen, my ego is not a helpful tool in this, but what I really want to do, because I get it, that what I offer to others, so what I want to offer is compassion. I want to offer understanding. I want to offer the fact that if my brain were wired the way yours is, I'd be doing the same thing. And that the behavior and the words of a person do not reflect the truth of their being or of ours. And we're promised over and over and over by the Course, this is a theme that it never lets up on, is if you decide to offer compassion and understanding, this does not condone bad behavior. This says, I'm able to recognize what's driving the bad behavior. And I wish these people well. I would wish that their torment need to have engraved on my wall. I've heard it so many times, and it always works. I've had that experience myself.
And sometimes it's the same people. And sometimes, Carol, right, it's the very same people. It's not like it's a new set of people. The same people who you thought were the bane of your existence become people who you're now enjoying because the shift in perception.
All over and over and over again, it happens that way.
I know it can happen both ways. Sometimes people drop out of your life and are replaced by more compatible beings. I just want to read you some of the comments in the chat so that you know that, John is saying, dream softly of your sinless brother, gratitude beyond words for such beautiful awakenings.
Yes.
And
I like what Fancy said. She said, to use Amy's example, it's kind of funny to me that we have the internal unrecognized judgment about being inconsiderate. And there she is holding the door open for that judgment to be seen, like, come on in.
That is a great metaphor right offhand. So
perfect.
Call your attention back to our mirror idea, because you have on a beautiful pink shirt. So we're really clear that if you stand in front of a mirror, Bill, you're going to see your pink shirt, rose-colored shirt, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And if you put on a blue shirt, it doesn't occur to you that, well, next year, the image of the blue shirt's going to show up. You're absolutely positive that you put on a blue shirt, stand in front of the mirror, and there it is. No sign of a pink shirt anywhere. That's how rapidly the life situations can change. I'll give you a tiny little fast story. I found this so upsetting. So to compact this story, I realized, I thought, what is it that I don't like about this boy? It's like, he's too hard on my kids. I would run him off and he'd climb back over the fence in the backyard. One time, and this is so telling of what we do, I had to take my little boy someplace, and I told Hank to leave, and I thought he did. And I came back home, I locked him in my house. He was back in their room playing. I was like, that's what we do when we try to get rid of something, we lock it in the house. Okay, so what I did was realize, again, using this technique that is bulletproof, which is the phrase, he's too hard on my boys. How do I fear I'm too hard on my boys? Obviously not wrestling around on the floor with him, but somehow, I don't know, I thought I was too demanding. I was very worried about not being a good mother. I knew about adults, but these little unreasonable kids, what do you do with them? So in any event, I was trying so hard. And at some point I thought, this is ridiculous. I am not a bad mother. I am doing everything I know how to do the right thing. And I'm getting off my own case about this. I want you to know that instantly, like the next day, that boy was gone. I would go through months and not even see him. And his older sister, his parents were nice friends of mine. His older sister was our primary babysitter. It was like suddenly he had other friends to play with, other places to go. Instantly, things change. I have had so many experiences in my life and with other people where you change your mind, and within 24 hours, the problem dissolves. The person is gone. The ugly cats who drive you crazy have just decided not to ever come sit on your front porch anymore. In other words, it's instantaneous. And the more
you know what, Carol, I'd like to invite everybody right now to see if a memory like this pops into your own mind. Something that happened, it happened instantly, even though most of us tend to think, oh, that happened for Carol Howe, but that will never happen for me. But that is often because we dismiss what happens easily as not being true or being an exception or being a fluke. And we don't allow ourselves to have our faith strengthened and understand that that is indeed the Holy Spirit undoing what the ego has made.
Well, now, one way to disabuse yourself of this idea is to say, how many mirrors have you stood in front of that did not faithfully reflect your image right on the spot? No one alive has ever stood in front of a mirror and just had a blank.
Well, maybe a bad dressing room mirror, like in a department store, doesn't count.
Well, let's say a functional mirror. Our world is a functional mirror.
We should have made this an hour and a half show, you guys. We're really down to 1 minute left, and we haven't had the Peace of God experience. We had a few other questions in the chat room, and how do you want to go with this, Amy?
Well, we're willing to go over, you guys. For those of you who can stay, Carol said she has some wiggle room, and maybe we'd like to do a Peace of God experience for those who need to wrap, and then come back to more questions after that and go a little extra.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to go a lot extra. Let's just give it 10 minutes for you guys that are going to hang on, so you can put a limit on it. So let's go another 10 minutes. So why don't we answer another question or two,
and then do our Peace of God experience?
A Peace of God experience and close in 10 minutes.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay. Thank you, guys. You want to read off the couple of other questions we have, Amy? And then Shasta had her hand up and then she put it back down.
Yeah, so let me get to her. I want you to know that Ellen says, Carol, thank you exactly. We perceive what we conceive. And Ka said, Carol Howe is amazing. And at some point they lost reception, so I hope we're back now. We got a heart and prayer hands from Jan Stevens. Shout out to you. And a heart from Tina. And Susan thanked you for an insight. I'm just scrolling through. Shasta said, and I think we did this was the first one, about many experts say that our subconscious controls many of our
she had her
beliefs and
hand up
behaviors.
and she put it down. I'm not exactly sure how that mechanism works.
Okay.
But also Carol has a friend named Yvonne that said, great to see you, Carol. Lots of love from Hugh and me in Scotland.
Right. I know who that is.
Yeah.
Well, to the people in Scotland.
Lois says, so happy to be here. Carol is exceptional. Suzette says she's delighted to be here. Cox said, blessings upon blessings. We're all veterans of some sort on this planet. You're getting namastes from Susan, which might be a different Susan. So, you know, we love you all. If we skipped anybody, we're so sorry. You're in our hearts. We include you.
We look forward to other webinars, and it would be awesome to have Carol come back again. And thank you all for joining us on Pure Presence. Herein lies the peace of God. We're going to now open this for the peace of God experience for Carol, if you would like to lead us in this way.
Yes, I think this is so important because we want to wrap up saying the point of all of this is for us to realize we have not left home. There is the end of one of the lessons that says, there is no place where the Father ends and the Son begins as something separate from himself. So we want to begin to do everything we can to get, I haven't stopped being myself. Now, I want to give you a little analogy first, since I live in Florida and not too far from the ocean. If we go over to the ocean, so just imagine this, you look out and you see water. Well, we know the oceans of the world are all connected, but in different places, they're called different things. They're called the Atlantic Ocean here, the South China Sea here, the Gulf of Mexico here. It's all the same recognizable water, but we give it a different name for a different location. But no one in their right mind would think that Atlantic Ocean somehow is different from water. It's a name for water in that place. No one says the ocean causes, the water causes the Atlantic Ocean. It doesn't cause it. It's the same thing. It's a name for it. In the same way, we are unseparated expressions of the Creator, of Source, of God, of the great mystery. We haven't left any more than Atlantic Ocean has left water. We are the specific expression. Just like a smile never leaves the face. No one ever saw a face on one side of the room and a smile on the other. The smile is an expression, and everyone here is a beloved expression of God, of the Creator. It is impossible not to be. Now, to make that clear to you, I want you to close your eyes, please, and I want you to just sit quietly or stand quietly wherever you are, and notice on present evidence, not anything that you're thinking about or remembering, but on present evidence, just as you sit there with your eyes closed, do you know where the end of you can be found? See if you can find where you stop. See if you can find any boundaries. See if you can find any edges. See if you know what color you are or how high you are. Or have you any earthly idea what age you are? And obviously, the answer is no. I can't find any edge to me. That's called being infinite. When there's no edge, there's no boundary. You don't ever stop. There is awareness that just is. It's uncaused, causeless awareness. Okay. Now, secondly, notice that every moment of your life, it's felt like right now. And you have felt like yourself, whether you were 5 years old or 10 or 15 or 70, or I just read about some woman who was 120 years old. So whatever that is, every moment feels like right now. I'm sure you can recognize that. When you had breakfast this morning, it felt like right now. That, okay, that being, recognizing being in the now moment is called eternal. Eternal means it's an out of time thing. It must be an out of time thing if every moment that you've lived feels like right now. So there you go. For starters, you have just from your own experience discovered that you were both infinite and eternal. Is that not the way we describe a creator? Is that not the way we describe source? So it's not something you have to believe in. It's something you can have your direct experience of right here and now. Did you? Did you do that?
Oh, yes.
I hope you did. I hope it's very clear. My guilt is unwarranted. I've just proven to myself I haven't changed myself. I haven't ruined myself. I haven't broken myself off because my my experience of being me, not what I've done, not what I've said, not where I've been, not what clothes I wear, not what the body looks like, but the sense of being me has been absolutely uniform forever. It always will be. Please notice you haven't ruined yourself. You haven't done anything to yourself. You haven't left home. If you haven't left home, you're not a transgressor. You're not evil. You don't need to be judging yourself anymore. We'll end this by saying at the latter part of the text, it says, what has happened to the Son of God that he has fallen lower than the stones beneath his feet? And it says, he's dreamed this dream of judgment. So once we got scared and once we got falling down this rabbit hole, so to speak, where we convinced ourselves that somehow we really had ruined ourselves and then went to sleep. It says, since you can't really leave home and you can't really ruin yourself, all that happens is you go to sleep and imagine this thing that you fear you have done. You haven't. You're still at home. You're still beloved. You're still whole. You're still innocent. And our job is to just remember these things, allow our minds to get reprogrammed in this way so that we realize finally this is all true. We really are all one. We're all individual but not separated expressions of wholeness.
Amen. And so it is. And Carol, thank you so much. You are a brilliant guest on our show and just a brilliant teacher. And Amy, thank you for putting this together for Pure Presence. Herein lies the peace of God. This has been a collaboration of the three of us, and it's been my honor to have you on our program with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
More fun than anything in the world.
Yes.
So.
Thank you all for sharing this time with us. Thank you all for registering, and we'll notify you. You'll get a notice so that you can see a replay of today's broadcast. And also we look forward to doing other shows with you all. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you,
Carol. Thanks, Bill.
Bye.
Namaste. Bye-bye, everyone.